Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on spotting at-risk cases before they escalate. This is the first session in the disability law firm Playbook. It's a new series from Chronicle where we tackle one specific operational challenge per session with actionable takeaways that you can implement this same week. You will receive a full replay within pretty much a day after this event. So there's no need to worry about missing anything over the course of this presentation. If you have to step aside, take care of something else, no worries as well. You'll get a follow-up there. We will be taking questions in the Zoom chat. So if you have any questions along the way, the only thing we ask is that you just drop 2 asterisks in front of your question. It's just a little bit easier to manage the questions as they come in that way. Also, we have a freebie if you stick around until the end for this. It's just going to be the Monday morning case triage routine that Nikhil is going to be going over later on in this presentation. And if you are just joining us, it would be great to just have you drop into the chat your name, your firm, as well as how many active cases you're managing. As I mentioned, if you stick until the end, submit some feedback for this event. We'll have this 2-page morning triage that you will be able to access afterwards. Before we get started, I'm going to go over our key learning takeaways from today. The first thing is we're going to be looking to leave the session knowing how to identify which cases need attention this week, ideally in under 10 minutes. We're going to talk about how you can configure Chronicle if you are using Chronicle to surface the right alerts so that you stop hunting for case status. Ideally, get to a repeatable Monday morning triage routine that actually scales as your caseload grows, and then shift your firm from reactive, waiting for problems, to being a little bit more proactive in seeing them first. All right, with this, I wanted to do a quick round of introductions from us. For me, I'm Will. I focus on building education, partnerships, and collaborations that help disability practices adopt better tools and stronger operational standards. My work is centered around bringing together people and the technology that are pushing the disability field forward and making sure that firms have clear, practical paths to implement what actually works. I'll be monitoring today's session and handling Q&A. And I also want to introduce you to Nikhil if you haven't met him already. He is the founder of Chronicle, the platform that is helping Social Security disability firms automate case tracking, manage ERE access, and streamline hearing prep. Nikhil has worked with many attorneys and advocates across the country to simplify complex workflows in the disability space. Chronicle now monitors and has monitored over 177,000 cases, as well as 7.5 million SSA documents. With that introduction out of the way, I'm going to pass it over to Nikhil to talk about what's going on in terms of why this is uniquely hard in disability law and set the stage before we then go into the workflows.
Awesome. Well, great to be talking to you all. I'm sure this will not be news to you that disability is a uniquely difficult field of law because of the interaction with the SSA. I know, having talked to many kind of representatives and attorneys, you end up calling the SSA all the time, takes up hours, and you just need more information. And so that kind of goes to the first point, right? Which is the SSA doesn't warn you guys when things change or happen on a case. You usually have to dig and hunt and find it. And this often is tied with a deadline, meaning for many firms, the problem is, they post a notice, there's a deadline, you don't have any notification of that unless it comes in the mail. The mail may have gone lost, or you have to check the ERE, and so you miss these deadlines, and it cascades into a whole another set of problems. You really compound this, especially if you're a growing firm and you have hundreds and hundreds of cases going on. It's hard to manage these processes because it's siloed in the ERE or driven by mail, meaning unless someone's actually updating things in your case management system, it's hard to hold all of this in your head. There's just no good way. I know some firms use spreadsheets, some firms use case management systems. It's just very difficult because it's a lot of manual, just individual case information that's hard to kind of sift through. Um, then there's also the fact that these cases take a very long time to process. Given that, you just don't know when a case is going to suddenly come up for an action, right? You just don't know when it's actually going to get assigned at DDS. So you're just kind of sitting around waiting for that. You don't know when they're actually going to issue a decision. You don't know when the hearings get scheduled, right? So there's all this waiting, and then suddenly action is needed, and there's a deadline. And once again, it's hard to keep track of that. And lastly, as you guys know, as I mentioned, things run on mail, right? It's often the mail that triggers these workflows. And unless you have someone opening and scanning mail every single day, and I know some attorneys who are essentially sitting there an hour a day opening mail and just putting it in a scan bed, um, you just can't keep track of all of these notices coming in the mail. So kind of then to like kind of really make it clear about how this becomes a problem for firms, we mainly see three main ways, right? There's the missed deadlines. A lot of these notices from the SSA have 10-day notice deadlines. And so unless that mail is coming to you on time, you may already be 2 days away from the deadline and you have to contact the client. And so you're really rushing and you may miss that deadline. Second, your client gets mail or notices before you do, right? So it could be an approval, it could be a questionnaire. It can be really, it can erode trust as their representative if you don't know about what they're calling about and they are the ones bringing up problems or something they need to do before you even contact them. And then last is the silent file, which is, you know, things keep are dormant and suddenly they activate. You have to do something and nothing is flagging it to you. And so it's just some case you forgot about because they've been really slow to process it, and then suddenly you're scrambling. So I think that brings us to a really good quote that we heard from one of our firms, Will from Veneer Disability Law, which is we could receive calls from our clients telling us they've been approved or denied. That doesn't look very good professionally, right? Clients should never know more about their cases than you do. And so that's really where we see firms need to have better processes in place to avoid these problems. So, kind of Chronicles answer this problem, and we're going to be showing you kind of both ways, but the way we see this being solved at Chronicle is daily ERE checks automatically. All of these systems that SSA have in place are usually mail driven, but if you're able to check the ERE for every single file every single day, you're able to stay ahead of these things and know what's going on. And so with daily ERE checks, we want to alert you whenever something changes overnight. So that way you guys are always surfacing what from Chronicle, what needs to be actioned on. And then you're able to kind of filter this down by urgency, whether it's an upcoming hearing, a CE, a notice, or a question you need to fill out. Be able to triage that, send it out to the right people, so that way you're always on top of your cases, um, and so on.
That leads us to a quick thing before we start prepping for showing some of the standard ways and going over then the new way of doing this, which is I'm curious from the audience on a typical Monday morning, how long does it take you to figure out which cases need your attention this week? Maybe it's A, 15 minutes or less, B, about 30 minutes, C, an hour or more, or you're still figuring it out by Wednesday. I'd love to hear you respond in the chat with one of these letters, and then we'll see what folks are saying as we then adapt that to then how we cover the next section. So go ahead and open that up. Bobby's saying D. I'm still figuring out by Wednesday. Um, A, because of Chronicle, and Prevail from Leanne's side. Excellent. Got A as well. A from a number of folks here. C from Casti, an hour or more. Usually how long it takes to scan in all the mail. Awesome. And as you guys keep on putting in those responses, Nikhil's going to walk through what does this look like in terms of the different approaches for how we see firms handle this problem.
Awesome. All right, sending a request. Oh no, I guess sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. So starting with the standard way, and so something I just want to kind of make clear, we're going to show you guys both ways to do it. How you can do it directly from the ERE. I know many firms actually don't know about all the ways the ERE provides data, so we're going to show you how to do that. And if you don't use Chronicle, it's also great to have a way of using the ERE directly. And then we'll show you the way you can set up in Chronicle and have it, kind of dialed in for your firm. So starting with the standard way, make sure that plays. Alrighty. So For many of you, you're probably very used to this process of logging into the ERE. Any staff member can do this. Don't have to have codes to access this part of the ERE. And the key thing is essentially going into the status report section here where you click Get Status Report, and then downloading each file as the spreadsheet version of it. So you probably see here, click Download Spreadsheet. It's pretty straightforward for the hearing and appeals version, and it will download these individual spreadsheets. And then the thing I really want to focus on, which will come right up, is how you do it for the initial and recon cases because it's a little bit different there. You actually have to scroll down to the bottom here and click download spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet you get by downloading the full spreadsheet has a lot more information in there than you would get out of just looking at the cases directly in the ERE. So go to the next slide then. So, and I'll walk through this live, but just kind of the high level of what you do with these spreadsheets. We are kind of focused on two key workflows for firms right now, which is recent decisions, meaning you want to ideally appeal those cases if they are denied, and second is CEs. The way you would do this is for the recent decisions, you would open up the hearing or appeals spreadsheets and you would filter down that column of T16 and T2 decisions that are not empty. And once again, I'll show you how to do that in Excel and sort by status date. That will give you a list of the most recent decisions. So that way you're able to, decide how you want to proceed on the appeals process. And then second is for CEs, and this is where it's actually pretty hidden. You are able to filter down for scheduled CEs, so that way you're able to find those in the spreadsheet and actually kind of see the information that you can use to contact your client and remind them of their upcoming CEs. So we'll show that in just a second in detail. So let me actually take over the screen share now. Screens. There we are. Great. So I might just quickly walk through that download process again, just in case you guys are not used to it. Right, going here, clicking login. God. Ugh. Enter ERE, get status reports. And the Q1 I'll focus on is just get list of initial recon cases. Make sure you actually click that and scroll down to download spreadsheet down here because that's where you get the extended version of the spreadsheets. So we'll actually start off with the and how you would find scheduled CEs. So you guys may or may not have seen this spreadsheet, right? The key thing to know with these spreadsheets for the initial and recon cases is they actually show you the claims. So it could be Title 2, Title 16. You'll also see the claimant info request here. So these could be, any pending questionnaires, medical evidence request, and then CE appointment notices. And as you probably noticed, this thing is super, super messy, right? There's just a lot of information in here. So it's really hard to find where are those CEs that I actually need to, warn my clients about. It's pretty simple at this point. I would just click find and type the word scheduled, and that will actually start showing me each CE that is a scheduled CE. I'll pop open this column. I'll click on this column and I'll actually expand this a little bit so that way I'll able to see all that information. And that's how I can start identifying the CEs within the spreadsheet that need to be addressed. So for example, here's the spread one at 2 p.m. CST, and I can click next, and I can keep on hunting down these CEs, and I'll be able to see which client they're for. So once again, this is the process you could take if you weren't using Chronicle to find those CEs in the spreadsheet. And that way you can then, write these down, make your own to-do list of the clients you need to contact.
Nikhil, do you mind just zooming in a bit and calling out which column out of the direct export that is that they should be looking out for? I think it's
Yeah, for
column
sure.
S.
I know this is probably very tiny. Um, so there's three columns in the spreadsheet. It will be at the very end for each row, which is CE appointment one, two, three. I think they have up to five, six CE appointments they'll put on this sheet. And once again, in Excel, you're clicking just find and searching for the word scheduled, and that will show you exactly which columns and rows have scheduled CEs. Then for the hearing level, very similar, right? This is the hearing spread sheet you guys may have seen before. The first thing you'll want to do is sort by status date. That is the decision date that they actually have on file. So I'm going to sort this on oldest to new, newest to oldest actually. Sort. Ooh, sorry, this is actually a little bit messy because it is a demo sheet. We'll just do that. That way it is more recent dates. Um, and then I will go over to these last two columns and I'll zoom in again just to make it a little more clear. So I was filtering on status, sorting on status date, and then I'll go down here to Title 2 decision and Title 16 decision, click on the filter button, and then filter for not empty. And actually, I'll take out favorables because, that is not relevant then. Same thing here. I'll take out blanks and favorables. Oop. And that way I'm able to see a list in order of all my recent decisions, which I may want to go through the appeals process for, whether it's an AC appeal or it's been remanded and now I know I have another hearing. And then once again, I can use this list to create my own to-do list of cases that I need to attend to in the next couple of days. Great. So then transitioning to the way you can set this up in Chronicle, right? So this is, kind of recap the way you would go about using the ERE directly to identify the cases that need, some action, whether it's CEs that are scheduled or decisions that need to have an appeal filed. I'll quickly close that and I'll jump to my Chronicle page. So if you guys are using Chronicle, you're used to our dashboard, right? You've probably seen all these cases. We have a couple different ways of turning on notifications or viewing this information. So one, as you guys know, there is our dashboard of all recent decisions. So you'll be able to go right here on your dashboard and see all the decisions and see favorable or unfavorable. If you once again want to dial in about just the unfavorable decisions, you can go to the decisions tab. And then depending on what stage you want, click there. You'll be able to see all the decisions, the date they were actually decided on. And once again, you can filter down if you want to remove and just go for um, unfavorable decisions here. I can kind of pick and choose all of those. And that way I can see all my unfavorable decisions that happened recently. Um, and then same for CEs. I can just go to the calendar view and view all the CEs for the firm in one place. Sorry, just gonna jump back here. So that way I can see all of these CEs and kind of keep track of that. So that's how you can view that data in the Chronicle dashboard. But the most powerful part of Chronicle is the notification system. So I have the ability to turn on notifications per case. And so I know a lot of firms actually are not using notifications, they're mainly using the dashboard, but I would highly recommend turning on notifications. You can do this case by case where I'll actually click claim and turn on notifications. And here I'll turn on decision and event invites for this client. So that way I can actually get notified whenever there is a decision or a CE for this client. So I can go one by one, claim them. I can also do it in bulk by going to any tab. Say, for example, my firm is alphabetically organized. I can bulk select here and claim and turn on those same notifications. The other benefit is if you are an account admin, you can actually claim and assign notifications for someone else. So if I want to, set these notifications in these cases for Amy, I can do that as a Chronicle admin. That way your team is kind of managing their pipeline as well. Or I can go into settings and then profile and turn on these notifications by stage. And in a little bit, I'll talk about the pros and cons of each of these notification methods. But, once these notifications are on, they will start, coming to my inbox. I can check that every morning, every Monday morning and see what has changed in Chronicle over the last couple of days. So that way I have like a, to-do list of, the cases that matter. So here is my Gmail inbox. I've set up a label where I'm getting these notifications. I highly recommend you have a specific folder that these go into so they don't crowd out your main inbox. And I'm now able to go down and see all these emails about certain cases, such as a CE being scheduled, um, a decision being made, and I can click view client if I want to jump into that client um, and kind of, address it through that. So that's kind of, the benefit of Chronicle notifications is now I have this email inbox where I'm able to kind of check on what has changed without having to navigate around the dashboard. Cool. So with that, we'll go back to the slide deck. Stop sharing.
You see the slide deck?
Not yet. Oh, maybe actually. There we are. Awesome. So just kind of recap how it works in Chronicle, right? One, you will turn on case notifications. So you'll go either case by case or um, by stage in settings and turn on notifications, event invites, and decisions. Those will be kind of, your key notifications for cases you need to work on. Go to the next slide. So yeah, so to kind of expand on like which one you should be using, um, so it really depends how your firm is set up, whether you're, a solo sole prop or you are a team with case managers. Um, I would suggest by case for folks who are either small teams, whether that's like a small case management team or sole practitioner, that we can kind of pick and choose which cases you want to follow. And you're not, overloading yourself with every email from every single case. Um, by stage is best for case managers overseeing a team. So, for example, if you are on the hearings team and you want to know about all decisions, you'll just go into settings and say, you know what, for every single case at the hearing level, email me when there's a decision. That way I can stay on top of knowing when I need to check in with my team if they're moving the case forward. And obviously, you can always do both. You can kind of pick and choose. If you're doing it by case or by stage on certain stages in certain cases. So, a good example of this would be someone who says, you know what, I want to know about every single CE, but I don't necessarily need to know about every hearing event. I just need to know about the decisions. So they can say I might do, a certain thing for the initial cases, but something different for the hearing stages. Um, Kind of some good examples of this when I've worked with firms directly is especially that team, larger teams where they break it down by stage. Those kind of initial and recon teams, the lower level teams, will do things by case to make sure that they're not getting a lot of noise because there's a lot more noise at that initial level. So they'll say like, hey, these are the cases and want to make sure they're attending their CEs and they'll turn it on for that. And then the hearing team at that firm will just do a blanket by stage because they actually monitor all hearings and want to make sure they're getting notified of anything that's happening at the hearing level. Great. Then just as a quick reminder, you can view all this stuff out of the dashboard, whether it's on that initial page where you see every single decision. You do have those side tabs where you can filter down and really check by date when things have happened, or the calendars for CEs. The top three tips that I highly recommend for most firms is one, if you are using notifications, create a dedicated inbox. There can be a lot of noise, so you want to make sure that you're not crowding out your internal emails. Second is only archiving notifications after they're handled. It's really great if you have that dedicated folder to use it as a task list and you only archive or delete the email once you know it has been addressed. And then second is turning on documents for those cases. That way you can actually see the underlying SSA documents, whether it is a hearing notice, a CE notice with the details of that appointment and so on. So to recap what you just saw, one, the standard way of reviewing ERE status reports. As a reminder, right, you guys can always use the ERE directly. There is a lot of information there. So you can go log into ERE every single week, download those three reports, filter and sort them to kind of get the right information. Second is set up Chronicle notifications. That's one of the key powers of Chronicle is having those notifications that you can check every morning about what's changed on your cases. And if you make this a habit, you're doing this every single day or every single week, you're going to be less reactive over time. You guys are going to stay ahead of cases and you're going to be able to address client concerns before they even hear about them. And that way they kind of build trust with you and, are very helpful in moving the case forward. Um, and so with that, I would also love to talk a little bit about kind of what's next, and kind of, where Chronicle is going, just to, seed what we're working on and get your guys' feedback. If you ever have any feedback, please drop them in the comments. But we're really focusing on smart notifications. Right now, our notifications are still a little too general. Um, and so if you guys want to dial it in, it's a little bit more difficult. And so we're building a way to set up more granular notifications. So that way you can get notified only when a questionnaire has been sent out or when the earnings report has been added. So that way you know you can now go calculate SGA or a CE is missed. So that way you can call the client and get it rescheduled. Or a hearing is rescheduled. So that way your team's able to adjust their calendars. Maybe you need new coverage. So that way each notification becomes more of a discrete task that you can choose if you want to receive or not, rather than having every single CE show up in your inbox.
The reason why this is so important in terms of leading into, the next section is because when you start with this foundation, it all feeds into the improvements that we're about to make on the platform as well. And so starting here is the first step. In terms of some of the high levels, I know got some of these folks actually in the audience today, so I'll read the one from Leanne. But when you implement a system like this, ultimately before Chronicle, typical day was spent involved in logging into the ERE multiple times. Everything's faster and everything's easier now. If you do want this two-pager in terms of just like this triage overview, what we've done, it's really sad because in this presentation, we actually have all these great emojis that are throughout this presentation, but when you export it in PDF, you lose them. So you don't actually get to see the beauty of this artistic piece of art that we've created here. But just imagine with us that there are some emojis there. But we have this Monday morning triage. And essentially what you can do is you can run through this routine. First, go over what were the overnight ERE alerts, what changed since Friday, check these cases with recent decision, review the CEs as Nikhil shared with you in the dashboard. And also you can confirm all the open SSA response windows are actioned, and then start prioritizing the cases. When you build this habit, we have a PDF version of this checklist as well that will drop in. But what this allows you to do is it allows you to get ahead of where you need to go in the rest of the week. So the core idea that we're kind of principling here is that you can open Chronicle first before your email on Mondays. And from there, you kind of go daisy chain that down the line as well. And Nikhil, why don't you share a little bit more about some of the upcoming releases or actually the releases we've been releasing recently, as well as what's coming up next for the rest of Q1 for us?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot has happened in January and February already. We've launched a couple partnerships and integrations. So we already launched Super Insight, which is another medical chronology provider. If you guys want to have some external options for medical chronologies, we do partner with Super Insight. They have a very robust AI tool for summarizing and writing briefs. And you're able to integrate with that with Chronicle so that all your documents automatically flow out of Chronicle into Super Insight. Um, Second, LexMed V3 upgraded briefs. If you have used our AC brief product, we launched that back in November. They've actually made significant improvements in that system to have hyperlink citations, stronger ALJ audit outputs. So highly recommend trying that also and seeing those upgrades. A lot of firms have been saying great things about it. And the price is exactly the same as it was before. We now have a integration with Litify, which is a different case management system. If some folks are using that, that automatically lets Chronicle data such as case status and documents automatically go into the case management systems. That way you can build your own automations and avoid manual data entry. In February, we launched integration with Benny, which I think Karen was just shouting out in the chat. Benny is a tool that helps applicants fill out forms, whether it's the initial application form or the supplementary form, such as the work history or the function report. It is also powered by AI and really guides clients through the process of filling out those very complex forms in an easy manner. And it integrates with Chronicle so that whenever those forms are requested and they show up in Chronicle, Benny will know about that and tee it up for you guys. So that way it's a one click and your client will receive those forms. And in the coming months, we're going to do the full conference cycle. We're super excited to see folks at the conferences. I will be at Nader, Accord, and NOSCR. So Dallas, Orlando, and Baltimore. We have a bunch of great swag. If you guys want to come and say hi, give us any feedback about how things are going, or just, say nice things. We always love to hear it in person. So yeah, hope to see you guys there.
Excellent. And just to tease out some of the swag for our Nader folks, we've got some custom Chronicle socks as well as some travel bags coming your way. And then on the Nosker side of folks, we'll have some brand new swag that we won't reveal until next month. So you'll have to be there in person to see what's coming down the line there. As I mentioned, if you are looking for just a two-page checklist of everything we went over today, just submit the quick feedback form in there and you'll get it after you submit the feedback form. I'll drop that link. We're going to start going into some Q&A. I know we had some questions over the course of this respective presentation. But just to recap as well, this was the first of these playbooks. And so if there's other tactical things that you'd like us to walk through, would love to hear that in the feedback form as well there. If you are not currently using Chronicle, you want to see your cases this way, feel free to book a 20-minute walkthrough with our team. We're happy to show you this workflow applied to your respective firm's setup. The link is the second link in the chat as well. With some questions, I am going to cover first the question from Tony and ask that to Nikhil. The first question here is whether or not are there any spreadsheet columns or data that Chronicle doesn't currently capture?
No, that's a great question. The answer is no. Chronicle does capture every single spreadsheet column. So whether it is the claims, the info requests, the medical providers, or the CEs, everything is currently captured in Chronicle and displayed to you in some form, and can be notified upon. And we are continuing to make that even better and easier for you guys.
Awesome. If you are somebody that's new using this sort of routine, I'm curious, how long would it take for this routine to get going? What does week one actually look like if we were to apply this?
Um, So it depends which version you're using. If you're going the standard way, you guys probably saw it is a little more tedious because you have to go one by one and you have to have your system of keeping track of each case that's in that spreadsheet. You might have to you'll probably have to do some form of manual data entry into your case management system, creating tasks for each of those items. And that's where it can take, a few hours if you have a lot of cases. Um, to actually go through. But once you do that once a week, you will be saving a ton of time on the back end because you keep track of what you need to. If you're using Chronicle, the actual setup of notifications, you do it once. It will take you a couple of minutes. And then at that point, going forward, you will always have your email inbox of all your tasks, and you're not really spending any time setting it up. And it will only take you a few minutes to review every morning.
Karen asked this question, can Chronicle do something to help with medical records?
We are currently not working on a medical request system. We recommend folks just use a release point directly, but there's kind of a bunch of different options out there. But Chronicle is not working on it directly.
Awesome. In terms of your recommendation with this sort of routine, who do you recommend runs it? Should it be an attorney? Should it be a case manager? Is it an it depends answer?
Yeah, as most things, it depends, especially on the structure of your team. If you are a sole prop, definitely it's the attorney. They're the one who will be going through it. If they have an assistant, that would be great. If they can go through that spreadsheet and they can learn how to filter and sort those spreadsheets and create those things. Or if they have a Chronicle account, that assistant can also get the notifications and forward the important ones. If you're a larger team, this is definitely more for the case managers. It is very tactical case level things. It's not really, focused on the hearing. It's workflow driven. So it'd be a lot of the case managers should have notifications set up if they're in a larger team.
For folks that aren't familiar with it, if they miss something on Monday, like does the backlog pile up or does Chronicle hold state in that way?
Um, Not exact. Just to kind of reframe the question. Well, I guess so. Chronicle does essentially keep on sending emails. There's never a backlog, I guess, that forms unless you let it build up in your email inbox.
Got it. And I know you had a section in your demo where you showed folks, if you're an admin user, what they could set up for other folks. What can you just review that section again? It went a little bit quickly earlier. It was
Yeah,
just
for
like you're
sure.
setting things up for certain people, and then yeah, it'd be great to just go over that section once more.
Yeah, let me share my screen. So definitely a less used feature that I highly recommend folks use. One, you need to be an admin in Chronicle. And so if you aren't an admin and you need to be changed, just let us, the support team know. We can flip it. But you'll be able to go to the Chronicle settings and then team and see the role of each person. You need to be an admin or a billing owner to be able to use this feature. But I can then go to any specific case or in the list, but I'll start with a specific case. I can click on that case, Henry. I can claim, and then I can claim it for someone else. So Sally Adams may be a case manager on my team. I can now claim for Sally Adams this Henry case and hit save. And now it is claimed for Sally. If I refresh this, it will say followed by Sally also. That way I'm able to kind of, help my team know which cases they're working on and get notifications for those cases. If you are doing something where you are alphabetical or by date or something like that, you can go into our list views, sort and filter. So, for example, if someone is working on Y through W, I can sort by last name, use this bulk select, click edit claims, and then also claim once again for Sally, turn on notifications optionally, and hit save, and that will now assign those cases to Sally. So if I go, for example, to Oliver, I'll now be able to see that is being followed by Sally.
And if someone's wondering, we log into the area a few times a day, how is this ultimately different? I'm curious how you'd respond to that.
Yeah, it's really about whether you're hunting for changes or you're being notified of changes, right? The ERE, as I kind of was showing, right, you have to go through the spreadsheet, you have to go and find those changes, which means you're being reactive and it's easy to miss things and it takes longer. If you're using this in Chronicle and setting it up with notifications, you're not hunting even through Chronicle for what you need to address. It's showing up in your inbox the day it needs to be addressed.
I'm just going through the chat. I think I've covered most of all the core questions here. So just to summarize for folks, the key takeaway today, case visibility isn't a people problem. It's usually a system problem. Chronicle gives you and your firm the morning view that every disability practice needs. If you're on Chronicle already, you can run through this sort of routine every Monday and open the triage view, whether that's using a combination of the by case or by stage method. And if you're not on Chronicle, you can feel free to book some time with us. The link is in the chat. If you want the checklist, just submit some feedback. We are reviewing that feedback on a regular basis to continue improving our programming and whatnot that we're sending for folks. So that would be great to hear from you there. And if you have any questions, whether it's getting admin set up for your account, feel free to email us at support@chronicle.com. In terms of setting up notifications, I can double check on that, but I think if it doesn't, I can refresh it and it will by the end of the day. So, Rich, I'll make sure that's covered on that side of things. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us today. Again, if you can share some feedback, that'd be great. If you're going to any of the upcoming conferences with Nader, Accord, or Nosker, we'd love to see you and stop by. And other than that, that will wrap it up for today. And thank you so much, everybody, for hopping on today.